wake up, do damage. Drawing number 7 Z's boredom. Working on nothing, need more though.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about scapular stability. This is a scapula. This is the back, this is the front. And this bone articulates with this bone, just like that. Hide behind it there. There you go. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so here's how this thing works. If I take my hand and I cover this completely, I can connect these two like that. And that basically is what your rotator cuff does. It connects this bone with this bone. This is important because those shoulder blade muscles can become weak and the coordination can get off. And when that happens, we're not able to power the motions that drive the arm, and therefore the rotator cuff and the smaller structures end up working overtime. They do way more than they're supposed to, and that's a problem. So if you have a shoulder pain and you want to fix it, one of the important stops on your journey is scapula. Look at that shoulder blade, make sure you have the strength, make sure you have the control. Here's a few ways we can strengthen the shoulder blade. And good news for you who are stuck at home right now, don't have access to the gym. You don't need a lot of equipment to do these exercises. So let me go grab my exercise strap and I'm going to show you how we do it. Okay, I have my exercise equipment. Number one, a water bottle. So we can change how much water we put in this to change the resistance up to a point. Number two, some stretchy straps. These come from the Rock Tape brand. All right, I don't know if you can see that. And they come in different resistances. This is a light resistance. I have medium and I have heavy. All right. Exercise number one, band pull aparts. I'm going to start with this light resistance and I'm just going to pull straight back this way, hold, and then slowly come in to the middle. I reach the end of my band here, so I'm going to choke out a little bit. Here we go. Band pull aparts. All right. That's number one. Number two, I call these Statue of Liberties. That's what I think of. I think of the Statue of Liberty holding her arm up. I'm going to take my band, put this side down by my hip, anchor it, and then this upper hand is just going to pull straight like that. So this one is pretty awesome. If I turn a little bit, okay, here's how that one looks. Number three, this is called a forward raise. I'm basically going to raise my arm in front just to about 90 degrees. So I'm going to step on the bottom of my band. And we're going to come up here and then down. Here and then down. I want to feel that shoulder blade locking into my ribs here, so that as I'm doing that, this shoulder blade isn't wiggling or waggling at all. It stays locked right on top of there. Okay? So here's my forward raise. I'm going to do that with my thumb up. Just like that. For these next couple, I'm going to need to anchor my band somewhere. So in my room, I have a bookcase that's pretty solid. And the band has a loop in it. So I can take this end, pass it through the loop, and make a little, it's called a girth hitch. So I'm going to girth hitch this around my bookcase. So now I have the band coming from this direction. This is probably one of my favorite scapular stability exercises. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reach forward, take a loop of band, Pull until my elbow is about even with my body here. Rotate my forearm vertically and then reach towards the ceiling and down. All right, so it's a compound movement. A few things happen at once. First, pull the elbow back. Second, forearm goes vertical. Third, press the arm towards the ceiling and then slowly reverse everything. Sometimes this position right here is called a W. If I do them both, you can see the W, and you can actually do this with 2 bands at once. So if I want to do both bands at the same time, I'll unhook my girth hitch and I'll take this band right in the middle and put it around the bookcase. Now I've shortened it, so I may need to come in, but I'm going to pull the elbows back, raise the arm, and then up. Oh man, that is so good. I can do repeats of just that last part. This tension here wants to pull my hands forward, so I've got to resist that just like that. So good. Now you'll notice that I demonstrated these with light band. You don't need tons of resistance when we get into these shoulder blade muscles. These are, relatively speaking, they're small muscles, and there are many of them that come in from different angles and directions, and that's what allows us to maintain control through a range of motion. It's kind of like if you put a bunch of people in line in a row and you handed off a totally full bucket of water and you didn't want to spill a single drop. Each person at that handoff would have to make that as smooth as possible, and that's how all the muscles around our shoulder and shoulder blade work to produce coordinated motion. It's actually not just one muscle, it's a bunch of them all working together in coordination to produce smooth movement. And as long as we're here working our shoulder blade, it's probably not a bad idea to work that rotator cuff as well. So there's just a couple that I'm going to recommend that we do for that today. The first one is going to be a classic, and it's just called external rotation, shoulder external rotation. And the way it works is you'll anchor the band with one hand, your other hand, your arm's by your side, forearm comes forward, and then pull that out just like that. You'll notice my palm goes up and my thumb points in the direction to travel. That's one. Number 2, I'm going to girth hitch this back around my bookcase. That was pretty easy. I'm getting better at that. I'm going to grab a loop here, and then you'll recognize this from our earlier shoulder blade exercise. This is also external rotation. So this motion and this motion are similar. They're both external rotation of the shoulder. This is just a little bit more dynamic. Okay, so we're just going to do our external rotation like that. So far I've given you some very similar directions of movement. Now there's a whole other category of movement that we want that shoulder blade to be strong in, and that is that protraction, pushing direction. And so to do that, I can take my same band that I have hitched around my bookcase, and I can just turn my body and do a press this way. Okay, I'm going to switch arms just so that you can see this a little better. But the press looks like that. Okay? So basically what's happening with that shoulder blade is I'm pushing it forward. I'm forcing it to stay close, hug my ribs, and drive forward using a muscle called serratus anterior, a super important muscle. So this one is our press. Sometimes we call that a punch. Okay, if I do that in your direction, it looks like that. Keep your shoulders low. A lot of times when patients are learning this, they're going to round that shoulder up. Don't do that. Keep that nice and low. All right. The angle of this is funny. This ideally would be coming from straight behind me, but you get the idea. All right. So it's going to be that motion there, and you can do this with both sides. classic exercises are going to be our chest press and our push-up, okay? When we do these and we're really working on stability, we're going to add what's called a plus, and a plus is that last little bit. A plus would be that. It's just 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch, just a little extra travel under load. Okay, what do we do with this? Well, the good news is you can do any of these exercises with this, all right? So you can have this in front, you can bring it up, you can press it overhead, okay? You can rotate it. You can rotate it. So, biggest difference between this and this is that the resistance changes as the length changes, where here the resistance stays the same. And why I like to use the band, probably preferably, is that I can put resistance in one direction and keep it as I go into another direction. Whereas with the weight like this, it lessens, since the weight resistance depends upon the force of gravity. As my forearm gets more vertical, this actually decreases a little bit, although I still have some resistance going that way. So if I had to choose, I would say I probably use these more frequently than I do these, but these definitely have their place, especially when we want to strengthen muscles and we don't want the resistance to change. So there you have it. Thanks for checking this out. I hope you've picked up some useful tips on how to strengthen your shoulder and shoulder blade, and we'll see you next time.